Hi all, good morning. Welcome to 99XT webinar. I'm Kanishka Silva. Today I'm going to talk about TensorFlow Lite for Android. First of all, let's look at the agenda. So today we are going to talk about a brief introduction of TensorFlow Lite at first, and then we will go through some key features of what TensorFlow Lite developers are offering us, and then we will go through some kind of development workflow, some kind of like guidelines, and finally we will go through a case study along with the demo. And also we have a question and answering section. Please save any of your questions till the last part of the webinar. Okay. So you will be thinking about what is this TensorFlow Lite, how this is helping for machine learning in mobile app development. Usually, according to the studies and all, so TensorFlow Lite is a lightweight solution that is introduced for both mobile and embedded solutions like Raspberry. And one of the thing that noticeable is it is still not supporting for training phases, but it uses pre-trained model to derive into inferences and classification, likewise machine learning technologies. And also it uses some interpreters. So let's look into architecture explained. So as you can see, it starts with a TensorFlow trained model. So first of all, you need a trained TensorFlow model to start it, and then you will have to convert that model into .tf Lite format so that it can be used for Android and iOS apps. When it comes to the basic flow, so usually it helps to a C++ API to talk with the interpreter. And when it comes to the Android side, it usually has a separate Java API that used for the developers, and also Android Neural Network API, which is focusing on hardware acceleration. And one of other noticeable impact is TensorFlow Lite, they are more focused on optimized model. So when it comes to the usage of machine learning into the mobile development, so one of the key point that noticeable is that is on mobile side, you have to think about how to optimize this well using battery constraints and computational constraints likewise, so that TensorFlow Lite is more focused on optimization part in terms of model optimization, hardware acceleration likewise. When it comes to the optimized model, so this happens on conversion stage when we are converting TensorFlow model to .tf Lite part. And also we have several already use cases that is on this community. And also TensorFlow Lite developers have introduced pre-trained models for classification, object detection, and segmentation. Day-to-day users of TensorFlow Lites are basically known as Gboard and Gmail likewise applications. Let's look into the key features first. When you are going through TensorFlow Lite development, you will get to know about interpreter. So what interpreter works here is it basically supports core operators, and also it is an optimized way of for on-device applications. So what happens is usually interpreter takes into that .tf Lite model, and then it run the model and came into inferences. And also, without any doubt, TensorFlow Lite is providing a huge platform support. Not only Android, iOS mobile applications, it also supports for embedded models, IoT devices, microcontrollers likewise. So this is basically like expanding the machine learning areas with the use of TensorFlow. And as I have mentioned earlier, so this is mainly focused on high performance, because on mobile app devices we have to take into consideration, because when it comes to machine learning models, it is well known that it uses high computational powers. So when it comes to that mobile devices, so we have to pay more attention for high performance and optimization part. Otherwise, we won't gain the advantage of using machine learning inferences through mobile devices. So that TensorFlow Lite is paying much more attention for high performance and model optimization part. When it comes to high performance, so it is basically go to a hardware acceleration like Android Neural API and also GPU level delegate and after all likewise performance optimization. And as I have also mentioned previously, it talks about model optimization. So there are two ways of achieving this model optimization, that is through best practices and through quantization. They have provided several guidelines for following best practices for using this model optimization, and also what happens on quantization is they are basically using floating point and operations, and they are optimizing that operation levels. And also, I have mentioned earlier, so TensorFlow Lite is using pre-trained model. Someone can see that as a disadvantage, but actually we are gaining a lot more advantage from this, because this pre-trained model is a defined data structure that is more focused on optimization level. So it is very advantageous for using high computational applications. And TensorFlow community has introduced several models so that developers don't have to reinvent the wheel like image segmentation, image classification. Those are the more common areas of machine learning application. So they have provided those models so that you can use it. And another one of the key advantage in TensorFlow Lite is you can use that for transfer learning. So what happens is you can use existing model and use that existing model trained again for some different purpose. So this is really advantage when it comes to using machine learning applications. So development workflow, this is where mobile developers take into account. So basically each of the mobile developers who are going through the TensorFlow Lite development has to go through these 4 steps. First one is selecting a model. So in this stage, developer can use either pre-trained model or use his own model. So pre-trained ones are that what I have mentioned earlier, that is provided by community, or else developer can derive his own TensorFlow model using Python like API. And then we comes to the second step. There we convert the model. So as I have mentioned earlier, in order to use TensorFlow in the mobile devices, it has to be converted to .tf Lite format. So there we have provided converters so that we can use those for that output .tf Lite model for our Android or iOS application. And also optimization part is also along with this convert. And then we come to the third stage, so that you can deploy the TF Lite model into the application. Basically, you can use a normal Android application and then apply TensorFlow Lite into Gradle properties likewise, and then call into the interpreter, and so that you can use that model and then use into inferences. We don't stop from that stage, and finally we go through the optimization model as well. This happens on conversion part, so that you can use quantized optimized model into the application. So let's talk about what is the case study that we are going to. So here I'm going to talk about online handwritten digit identifier, so that you can write on screen, and then you can check through what is the inferences that application came through. In order to train the model, so we have used MNIST dataset. So I have used the open source TensorFlow example that they have provided. So I will go through the demo application. So first of all, let's dig into code, what it looks like. So as you can see, here we have two main files. So we have main activity which take into account what is the drawing here. So we are using online handwriting recognition. So then it then look into call into classify async function that is on digital classifier. Here we are using the TensorFlow Lite, and let's look into where we use the interpreter. We have initialized interpreter first, and then we are loading interpreter, and here we are initializing it and loading the interpreter here, and this interpreter is what does the functionality. To the interpreter we are passing to the model. So this model is taken from helper function that is provided by the community itself. As you can see here, we use the model file. So when it comes to the developing this TensorFlow Lite to Android application, you have to include the .tflite file into asset folder. As you can see, it is included here. So that file is loaded into the directory, and then that model is run through the interpreter. And finally, we go into classification stage, and it will derive what is the output digit is. So let's go into the actual demo of the application. So here what happens is when I writing a digit, so it will come into classification. So according to this, it shows the predicted list, result here, and also confidence interval, what is the actual derivation is. And let's take another example. So this is not actually perfect solution, so there could be cases based on how we write, so based on that prediction could be wrong. And also one of the other advantages, it shows the confidence level too. So that is what we have discussed into the case study and the demo. So basically what happens is, let's take some kind of scenario when we are looking into real world application. So let's say you are given an requirement so that you have to develop a mobile related AI application. So first thing that you have to check upon is where do you find the data. So there, then you have to check upon. So what is the technology that you are going to use? If you are going to use TensorFlow Lite, then you have to derive your model and then convert that model back to .tflite and then use into your Android application. And also you have to keep in mind that you can also make the usage of advantage of optimization model, and also you can use Android neural API for hardware acceleration, and also they are supporting GPU delegates also. So you can take advantage of all these features. Yeah, so that's what I had to talk about in terms of getting into